It was a massacre, a battlefield soaked in blood, where silence fell over 210 fallen soldiers. But one man lived to tell the tale. Charles Windolph wasn't supposed to survive, yet somehow he did. And what he saw changed everything we thought we knew about Custer's last stand. This is his story. Charles Windolph wasn't born into battle. He was a German immigrant chasing the American dream, until reality pushed him into the US Army. In 1872, at just 21, he joined the 7th Cavalry. For 5 years, he marched under General George Armstrong Custer through the harsh Dakota plains and into the heart of native resistance. But no training, no preparation, no drill could ready him for what would happen on June 25, 1876. That morning, the sun rose over Montana's hills as 600 cavalrymen rode west. The air was quiet, too quiet. The column stretched in formation, company by company, unaware they were riding into the jaws of death. Custer believed the village they were hunting held maybe 1,500 warriors. In truth, it may have been 3,000 or more, outnumbering them 5 to 1. Still, Custer made a fateful decision. Attack immediately. No waiting, no second thoughts. And from that moment, the 7th Cavalry began to unravel. Windolph was in Company L, one of the 3 troops Custer kept under his direct command. Major Reno took 3 others, including many of the Indian scouts. Benteen rode with 3 more companies into the hills. The regiment had split into 3 pieces, and none of them realized just how alone they truly were. At first, the land was still. No enemy in sight. But then, smoke in the distance, gunfire faint but growing, and suddenly, they were surrounded. Reno was the first to engage. He crossed the Little Bighorn River with 120 men, expecting backup to follow. Instead, he charged alone, straight into a storm. Indian horsemen rode fast and furious, flanking his troops on both sides. Reno's line held for only minutes before collapsing under pressure. In the chaos, men drowned in the river, shot as they tried to flee. Horses stampeded. It was a bloodbath. Windolph, meanwhile, was still with Benteen, racing toward the sound of battle. But too far to help. Trumpeter Giovanni Martini, riding hard, wounded, bleeding, delivered the final message from Custer. "Come quick, big village, bring packs." By then, it was already too late. Windolph saw the signs, scouts fleeing, burning teepees, and finally the distant thunder of war. He and Benteen climbed the bluffs and saw it. Dust rising, flashes of gunfire, bodies. They charged forward, but Custer was gone, vanished into the northern hills, where death was already closing in. Custer's final moments remain a mystery. 5 companies, over 200 men, not one survived. But from the ridge, Windolph could see it, a distant chaos, Indian warriors surrounding the troopers. He never saw Custer fall, but he saw the aftermath. The field was littered with bodies, horses, men torn apart. Custer's entire command had been erased in under an hour. And still, the fight wasn't over. Windolph and the survivors regrouped with Reno and Benteen. They took high ground and dug in, bracing for another wave. Through the night, they heard sounds of war in the distance, gunshots, war cries, silence. The next day, the Indians returned. But they didn't attack. They circled, watched, then began to fade away. The battle had ended, and the cost was devastating. 2 days later, help arrived. The field was still, the stench of death lingering. Over 260 US soldiers had died. But Charles Windolph lived. For decades, he held the memories inside. But eventually, he shared everything. His words, calm, vivid, harrowing, offered one of the most detailed accounts of the Battle of Little Bighorn. And thanks to him, the fog of myth was pierced. He wasn't a hero by choice, he was simply a survivor. And sometimes, that's the hardest role of all. Most people know Custer. Few know the men who stood beside him and lived. Charles Windolph's story isn't just a tale of war. It's a haunting reminder of how quickly everything can fall apart. And in the silence after the gunfire, whose stories survive? Only those who live to tell them.